Very.
Assume what Nathaniel's doing isn't too urgent, so I'm going to go ahead and start us off. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda today?
I have a comment, I believe you could call it. We are, if I may have the floor.
Yes.
We are involved with a scientific experiment here to, as I understand it, to explore the behavior of the ionosphere, and we're trying to do that before the eclipse. And we're distributing or we're trying to collect data from a variety of geographically desirable sources, but we're kind of saying it's okay for people to use their own equipment and not the standard package that is being prepared for distribution to, as I thought, and as we all thought, to everyone, so that the instruments that are collecting the data are all the same. And I think that that's important if we're going to try and assume that the data is all, I don't know, pure is the wrong word, but it is all comparable.
I completely agree.
So I question the wisdom of saying, yeah, you can use your own stuff, rather than using the stuff that we provide. And that's all I say.
My answer to that is, as yes, it is okay to use non-standard equipment as long as they're providing the standard data. And we should have, there should be some way of knowing which ones are the standard data sets. So like if someone has the standard equipment, then they should get like an extra gold star or a flag or something in their account that we know they're using their standard equipment, because then we can filter out for that. But otherwise, I do think using non-standard equipment that still meets certain basic criteria is okay.
Yeah, but it's who's going to check the criteria?
Well, that's part of the job of the of the analyst. When we, if we do have a set where we're like, okay, we know that these are the people running the standard equipment, you can start just with that. And then for the other equipment, there are ways you can do checks on the data to look at it if it looks okay. There are ways that you can, if we're collecting enough information from that station, asking for metadata or information about their setup, that can help us to find out. But I think we really have to have this philosophy that it is okay for people to develop their own kind of systems for a couple of reasons. One is this is a citizen science project, and an important philosophy point I want is for amateurs who are freely volunteering their time to have the ability to pursue their own interests.
I agree.
And so I think as long as we know that they're different, I don't see a problem with it. And it's the same sort of thing with the RVN and the PSK reporter and all that stuff. Everyone's using different equipment. And I think this is going to do a couple of things. One is I think it will give us more observations. Two, it's going to increase it's going to increase ingenuity, because it's going to allow for more creativity and people to think of their own things. Three, I think it's going to allow for participants to not feel like they're being micromanaged or locked down, or being kind of forced to do something. So I think it's a very important part of the amateur spirit to allow that sort of experimentation. And I think we can control for it on the scientific side by having a recommended set of supported hardware and knowing who those people are, and then we can use that as a baseline, and then we can look at the other observations and use them as we're able.
You make very good points, and I understand them all, and I tend to agree with all of them. But as a scientific experiment to collect data, which I think is the driving force here, and to put that data in a repository for future generations, as in maybe 10 years from now, to look at, how are they going to know where the data came from?
Yeah, you're
I think
putting the emphasis onto the person doing the research to verify that their data is the data he's looking at is acceptable. So that's really a heavy lift for whoever's doing the analysis. And that's the only thing you really see with this.
Yeah, if I could say though, that's pretty standard in the science community. There's no data set on Madrigal that doesn't say, please talk to the PI. Do not just use this data without talking to the PI and really understanding where it came from.
Do we have that superstructure?
There's other precedent for this too. Within the space physics community, when you look at that GPS TEC data, that's being provided. Those are hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of sensors, GPS sensors that are using a whole range of equipment. Yep. And Anthea Coster and Bill Rideout and the team up there, they've worked very hard to figure out ways of removing biases and calibrating, and they just have to work with what they're given. And similarly with the citizen, weather observers program, where you're getting wind speeds, ground level wind speeds and temperatures from people putting up, weather stations in their backyard. It's the same thing. So it's something that we will have to be able to figure out how to ingest and properly account for. And over time, Bill's website, the Alabama database, does have the ability to put notes in about what type of equipment you are using. You can flag that it's this particular kind. And even as we go on with the Grape, the design we're using for the Grape today, it's not going to be the design we're using for the Grape 10 years from now, very probably. There will be changes, so the best thing, and similarly too with communications, you have all these different manufacturers. You have a single sideband standard that's published. You say this is how was single sideband signal supposed to look like, and then different manufacturers make up different radios that meet that standard and have slightly different performance levels, and we're all able to talk to each other.
Let me speak for Rachel's department here. The triumph of contemporary mathematical statistics is being able to deal with noisy data sets. Many of you know my background. If you didn't trust noisy data sets and their statistical extraction, you'd never put a pill in your mouth again.
Yep. I understand. I just wanted to bring it up. A second question. I'm setting up a GNU radio version, and Bill Engelke has provided me with an image, and I'm about to start uploading data. I've registered with UA and all that, but the question comes up, okay, so I collect this data, how do I look at it? How do I plot it? Is there a thought for the other end of this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the digital RF software already comes with some libraries and tools for plotting this data. Bill Engelke had already, his current system, I think, Bill, yours already shows a waterfall display in real time, right? Yeah.
Well, you say real time, it's plotted from a 24-hour data collection.
Okay. So, so Bill does currently have software that will plot it in real time. So and the other thing is, Kung, when I first hired him, his original job was to work on doing the data visualization for this data. he will still do that, but we've just had to divert him onto making sure the Grape 2 gets up and running at the moment. But there are absolutely standard tools and ways of plotting this data and making it, it's actually going to be much more satisfying than the Grape 1 data to actually look at.
Do
Okay.
we have that tool set now?
We can do it. I don't think we have it so that it cranks it out on a regular basis right now. But we certainly do have the ability to do it on a case-by-case basis, and we are working on building out.
Well, it's more the issue of setting up a system, knowing you're actually collecting something meaningful is really what the effort here is all about.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and we can the data that's being collected, we can check that.
Okay. Well, I would like.
And there are absolutely digital RF plotting tools that let you visualize that data very nicely.
Okay, I would like some pointers to those tools, please, but not at this moment. We're in the middle of a nice discussion. One more question. Bill, you provided me with an image of the GNU Radio Digital RF setup, and that was dated. I forget what it was, probably a current version sometime, and I suspect there will be more versions. The thing is that this image was on 128 gigabyte. It was a 128 gigabyte image, and that won't fit on a 64 gigabyte card.
There is a Perl script you can run on the image that you do from the thing that extracts all of the empty data space and just compresses it down to an image that just has the file system with the files in it. And that 128 gig image will probably drop down to like 7 or 8 gig. Because I did that on all of the Grape 1 distributions.
It's 7 gig compressed.
Well, it's actually just the image, then you can compress it, but it's already pretty dense.
It's more, I looked at it and it looks like it's more than just one image on this particular release. I'll
understand, but I'll get with Bill, and it runs under Ubuntu, but it's a Perl script, and the file systems off the SD card have to be in good shape, specifically the FAT table or the FAT system that's typically on a boot. Of course, that's Grassfield. Anyway, there's a Perl script to do that.
When you say Perl, I shudder, but keep me in the loop, please. Thank you very much.
Because I know Bill has been asking for that. So,
okay, back to Ned.
I'm just going to share one thing here. So this is a figure that was created using a Grape 1, the original Grape 1, running Bill Engelke's digital RF image.
Nice.
So this is the sort of data that, so Bill does have code that will generate these plots, that's capable of generating these plots on a daily basis.
This is Doppler shift? Yes.
This is Doppler shift. So this was collected with an actual Grape 1 using Bill's digital RF image. So we absolutely do have the ability to make those plots.
Well, please pass it out.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
I imagine Bill can send you the code happily. It may just take some finagling to get it going, but he can certainly get you a copy of the code.
Thank you, sir.
There's quite a bit of stuff that has to be installed on your computer to run that, but we'll have to work through it.
You need
for another image.
Bill, what was that?
Well, the plot routine. There's quite a few things you have to install on the computer that's going to run the plot routine.
Okay.
And you're usually going to be running that on I guess typically a Windows, not Windows, an i5 running Ubuntu, not a Raspberry Pi.
Okay. Well, that's okay. I've been doing computers since the early 60s. So I can probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill, you are going to be getting a package this morning, actually probably right after lunch, with 2 Raspberry Pi 4Bs, 4 gigs, and the 32 gig high performance SD cards.
Okay, we'll look for that.
that should be showing up. I had the option of getting it to you by 10:30 for $120 or by 12 o'clock for $21. So that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm traveling tomorrow, so I won't be able to do very much with it for a few days.
That's fine. As long as you get it, that's all I care.
Yeah.
It's not a crisis on your part, so just be aware it's going to show up. Kung should be getting his this morning as well.
I have assembled a setup according to Gary's plans. The last piece arrived yesterday, the disk drive, and I'm ready to do testing or whatever else is needed. However, I would like to know what the best bandwidth of the my Grape ones should be to be in sync with everybody else. I have a choice of the original roughly 2 kilohertz Grape one, or I could change out some of the capacitors on a second card, a second Grape I have, and increase the bandwidth.
No, you don't want to do that because this is an anti-aliasing filter, so the lower is better.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and run with the original
Yes.
Setup and not the Grape 1.12.
They're just anti-aliasing filters, and we're assuming an 8 kilohertz sample rate. So 4 kilohertz is the Nyquist frequency. So long as you're below that, you're fine.
Okay, so I have the everything sitting here, right, waiting for software. How do I go about getting software and instructions on how to install it? Yeah, right. That's not so easy, I know. I'm having a terrible time just getting FL Digi to work right now. It doesn't like to see the sound card.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, so Joe, you said you are using a Raspberry Pi and a regular Grape one.
I have that system running right now, collecting data like I have for the past couple of years. I have a second setup using the original Grape one with you know, a completely different setup according to what Gary has prescribed, and I would hope that would be a standard.
Yes, it should be. So what I would say is keep your first Grape one that's been running for a few years. Don't touch it. Just let it keep running.
Right.
And then the second thing is as Bill gets the starts working on cranking out images, SD card images, he can probably send you an SD card image with the GNU radio software on it also.
Yeah, I know I'm on that list as well. Couple of notes. One, if you have a Grape run running, it would be ideal to have the GNU radio take its audio stream from the original Grape. So you're feeding the audio stream into 2 Grapes, or I'm sorry, into 2 Raspberry Pis.
Raspberry Pis.
Oh, really?
That way we can compare apples with apples. The second thing that I noticed, Joe, is
are we comparing grapes to grapes?
Yeah, these grapes, same grape.
Yeah, right. Instead of we're not comparing apples to apples, we're comparing grapes to grapes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, grapes to grapes. Yeah. Marlot to Marlot, if they sit for a while.
Go ahead, John.
But for Joe, the one thing I noticed when you were submitting for another node, you had mentioned multiple antennas, and that's a red flag. We want to use the same antenna because the gain's going to change and it's going to change what the data looks like. So we need to, whatever your setup is, stick with the same antenna.
Okay, that's a 40-meter inverted V.
Okay.
Or drooping dipole, actually. Okay, well, I'm here to help test, help do anything that the group would like me to do. I have some time to devote to this, etc.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite ready to pull the trigger on the release for Bill. I'm not going to push him on that because he's got some work to do, but I will work with Bill on getting the distro down to a size that's easily distributable. Can't even talk this morning.
Okay, will we be able to download that, or do we have to wait for an actual?
Going to be a couple of gig image, sort of like what the Grape. Actually, probably be a little bit bigger, but it's not.
That one was about 6.
Yeah, it's probably going to be in that range. But
7.2 is what Bill's image was for me.
How big?
7.2, and it was compressed.
Okay, that sounds right.
Okay. One thing I just want to make absolutely 120% clear for the recording and for Rachel's minutes. And I heard this pretty clearly. So the original Grape 1.11 unmodified should be continued to be used for FL Digi, obviously. And we should also, the Grape 1.11 unmodified will be fine for the DRF image that's coming out in the future. Right. yes. Okay, good, done, thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, the bandwidth is a little confusing because if you think you want more bandwidth, it's actually we want less for anti-aliasing. So it's not intuitive, not obvious. So it's actually good catch. But yeah, the 1.1 was just fine.
The data is a few hertz wide.
Right. So if you look at WWVH with a shift up, our bandwidth with a 1 kilohertz shift would be 2.2, say 01 or 2210 hertz or 2203 hertz, something like that. So we're well within the bandwidth of the original Grape.
Okay, John,
Okay,
I sent a friend a Grape 1, the original 1.11, and he was going to modify that. Should we go ahead and leave that in the original Grape 1.1?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Because
I'll get
that
that
way,
out to him right now.
that really gives us also a reference point as to what the bandwidth is being sampled at. Because if you start modifying that, that's going to affect the data set. And we want to keep these all the same.
But there are also a lot of Grape 1.12s out there with a different audio characteristic.
Correct. And it's labeled in the ID header.
Thank you.
That's why I put it there.
One point of confusion, Dave McGaw just made a very good comment. You know, the data we're sampling is only a few hertz wide. You know, originally it was 10 hertz or something like that. But I know one of the goals is to be able to, you know, potentially sample a wider bandwidth and disambiguate between, say, WWV and WWVH. So how does that play against or with this thought that we're only sampling about 10 hertz worth of audio?
Well, we're looking at a 10 hertz slice, but it's sitting at a kilohertz. So it's really misleading to say we're only looking at 10 hertz.
Right.
So in even at WWVH, if we were looking at the top of second tick, that's 1200 hertz, which would put us at 2200 hertz. So we still have to sample twice that fast to get it. We can process it down like the digital RF does down to a 10 hertz bandwidth. That takes post-processing.
Okay, got it. Post-processing is what takes it down
that's the thing we're not talking about is that digital RF is post-processing and shifting that down.
Yeah. What you're looking at is a 1 kilohertz IF.
Correct.
And a few hertz around it.
Precisely correct. You get 3 gold stars and a go home early card. Back to net, Rachel.
Lovely. All right. I think where we're at, get back. John, do you want to give a brief update on how the Grape 2 stuff is going before we?
This week was mitigating the crisis of the Grape system. I sent to Kung the U-Blocks transceiver, U-Blocks GPS got destroyed. And also he couldn't write any new files to the operating system. So the microprocessor was down. So he sent me the U-Blocks. It looks like he tied the antenna to a distribution point that had a 5-volt signal on it and it roached the U-Blocks chip. So it no longer put out the phantom power supply to run the antenna. So I shoehorned in a fix around that so it'll run that 3.3 volt antenna. I gave him a new antenna and got the hardware working already. And I shipped that back to him. He should be getting it this morning in the next 6 minutes. The operating system, Bill Blackwell sent him an SD image of what he's using. Hopefully that'll fix whatever his problem was, but I don't understand what the problem is because both of the images I sent to Bill and to Kung came from the identical same image because I burned them, tried them, and sent them. So I have no clue what happened with what Kung was playing with, but hopefully we can get over this hump and get him going. So it was crisis mitigation this week. And I also shipped Bill Engelke two of the Raspberry Pi 4B 4 gigs and the 32 gig high-speed cards for his development of the image for the digital RF sampling program or sampling system that he's working on distributing. So other than that, I didn't do much this week.
I can also say that Kung was able to get the GPS working on the Grape 1 here.
So, good.
He got that going.
Oh,
yeah. So he has we're sharing a GPS antenna right now with an experiment that was provided by UT Dallas, the SynPy experiment, and they gave us a splitter, and it's very finicky whether you plug their thing into port 1 or port 2, and there's always confusion on that. We got that straightened out. So we now have the SynPy on one port, and we have the Grape on the other port. As soon as my new cam radio station gets installed, we're going to have our own GPS antenna that we will have full control over, and we won't have to worry about disturbing the SynPy anymore. But it's you know, it's coming. It's just.
Yeah, I would encourage him to use the antenna I sent him for now, because what he's got is unprotected, and if he puts it onto another 5-volt system, it will destroy the system. So he's
all right. Did you tell him that in the email?
No, I have not.
Okay,
but he hasn't got the unit yet, so
right. We should make sure we tell him that.
yeah. The prototype stuff is unprotected. I mean, he has to do static control, the whole 9 yards. So he's really got to be careful with it. It's not a hardened system yet. It's still in its development stages and very much exposed.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a place where he can work on that. It may end up being at his house because you know, these modern buildings, they don't like to let you put things out windows or open windows or anything like that. So yeah.
Back to net, Rachel.
Okay, so I don't think Kong's here today. So if that's all the updates from there, I think we can just move on to the Grape 1 deployment.
Great.
In terms of updates on where we are, how is ordering system parts going?
I'm still waiting for a list of the numbers because it looks like it keeps changing. So I'm ready to pull the trigger, but where I was originally going to order 25 of the Leo Bodnars, but it looks like right now it looked like I only needed 7. So I'm going to need a little direction from Gary on quantities of pies and heat sinks and disk drives and Leo Bodnars. I don't know if is that settled down enough yet that we can actually get something close, or are we still in major flux mode?
No, I'll take a look at that again this afternoon. My gut feeling is the New England Grape Group is going to build 15 complete systems.
Oh, okay. So that's changed again.
Right. And 20 Grape 1.12 just to have some extras. But anyhow, I'll send you a note this afternoon, John.
Okay.
Another question is, I know we were debating a little bit over email the power supply for the Grape itself, and it sounds like Stan and others have talked about going with the 9-volt or some low voltage regulated supply for the Grapes.
Doesn't need to be regulated.
Correct. Can be anywhere from 6 to 17 volts.
Yeah, but as we were discussing, having a regulated wall wart does keep the noise under control.
Yeah, you have 120 hertz ripple, and the one that I last saw from Triad had a 470 microfarad. So at a 10 mil load, that would give you 80 millivolts peak to peak ripple. Which the
regulator will handle just fine.
That'll reject that just fine.
So any of those that we were proposing would be fine.
Yeah.
But they're all about the same price.
So it's really going to come down to price.
Jamico had a bunch of options.
Okay.
So I'll update my diagrams accordingly to make that. And one of the suggestions, about once a week, I'm going to send a note out to all the people that want to host. And I'll suggest that aside from having their own monitor, keyboard, and mouse, that they also have a power strip, because they're going to be plugging a lot of stuff in, at least 3 wall warts away from what it looks like.
Boy,
I'll admit that I go to our local thrift store and scrounge things like that.
Boy, I sure second that suggestion. I've got 4 wall warts plugged in. Had to use a strip with one of those gadgets from, I think it was Home Depot, where you can plug 3 into 1.
Yeah, especially the little bit, the DC one will be a little bit larger than probably the switching versions. But anyhow, so I'll add that to all my documentation.
There's an orange device, I think at Home Depot and similar, where you plug it into the wall and then can plug in 3, and it's not straight. It's 2 to the side and 1 in the same direction as the original plug. And that worked best for me.
Yeah, the new wall warts, they've gotten smart about how they put the orientation of the 2 tabs for the power pins, so you can stack them. The old ones, you would plug one in, it would cover up the next outlet.
Yeah, but then you get a power strip that has it the other way, and
yeah, and you're in trouble.
It goes back to being in the way again.
Yeah, you can't win.
Yeah, a few of them rotate, and that's, I guess, the ideal, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, that costs money.
Yeah, plug it and rotate.
Okay. And Gary, while I have you here, there was a question last week about you sending out the Grape list, Grape 1 parts list that you had compiled.
Yeah, that's what I went out on Saturday to all the host stations. A few other people asked for that, and I think I got it to them. But if anybody else still needs it, I might have missed you.
All right, so I think that's most the open hardware bit. I think this came up a little bit in the DRF discussion. Does anyone have anything further to add or any volunteering for coming up with a DRF procedure for checking whether or not the signal's on?
Well, the consensus was they're going to install FL Digi and look at the waterfall on that. Although I think it was mentioned that Digital RF had a waterfall, or is that a post-processed waterfall?
The new radio does have a waterfall feature in it. I'm not sure if
it's less than useful.
It's less than useful. Okay.
Does not compare to FL Digi in any respect.
So maybe installing FL Digi initially and using that might be an option.
Okay. FL Digi image has been incredibly useful here for making sure things were just working.
Yep. You got to have that.
So something like that is essential in my opinion.
Yep. I completely agree.
Real-time feedback.
Okay. Perfect. I just knew that there was some discussion about whether or not we actually wanted to do that last week. But
I'm already working on that for the Grape 2 distribution of a diagnostic tool to be able to set that stuff up, because we have adjustable gain on the front end of the Grape. So we have to be able to set that, and you need tools to do that.
Okay.
You can run FL Digi in waterfall only mode as well. So you don't have all the possibilities of changing the frequency inadvertently. So we can look into that for Grape 2.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I like that.
Okay. Any updates on the software bit? Other than what's already been said.
For Grape 1, correct?
Yes. For the Grape 1 and digital RF stuff. So Kung's not here.
Kung's not working on that.
Right. He was kind of volunteered early on in a different meeting.
He got volunteered.
Voluntold, I guess, is more like it. But if there's no update on that, we can move on.
I think I just want to point out something.
Yep.
Speaking of Grape 1s, Stan Bezerski is scheduled to speak at the Ham Exposition in September on this project, and he's likely to generate a lot of interest. And people are going to say, hey, I want to get on that. And the Grape 1s, the current Grape 1 image does not work with any pies that they would buy today. So I'm petitioning that John Gibbons finds time to recompile and make that that image available on the new version of the kernel. I know you're very busy, John, but there's going to be a big hoo-ha.
Yeah, I understand. Also, we ran into an interesting problem for the cron tab. As we got more than 60 nodes now you have to offset the hours and minutes. So we're actually starting node 63, so you have to enter it in as 1 hour and 3 minutes for the upload time. So I have to modify my instructions for that.
Can't the server take 2 guys coming in at 3 minutes after the hour?
I purposely am splitting them up to not overload it. I suspect it can, but at this point in time, I haven't tried badgering the thing.
Yeah, that worked fine last night. My stuff went up at 0100 hours and 3 minutes. It just worked like a clock.
Yeah, because we were initially having problems with their server where if you had too much traffic, it would just drop it.
Oh.
And that's why I sort of mitigated it that way, but we might have to revisit that. I don't know, but right now, I mean, even 120 nodes, that's within the first 2 hours, that should be fine.
Yeah, the last set of instructions too, I think was revision. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. It's possible maybe that was copied and pasted from an earlier version because the last instruction said.
Can you send me that? Could you send me that with? Could you send me that with red markups or question marks or something so I can review it?
Yeah, I will do that, John. That's fine.
Because that shouldn't take me long to do, but I couldn't figure out where the screw up was, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it. So if you can point me to it, I can fix it quick.
Sure.
And then we can put that up on the new distribution. And it should probably disable the existing one so nobody else uses it because the new Raspberry Pis won't run it. So in my free time, I'll get that done.
Also, I think I mentioned this to Gary. Gary's list indicates that the item number 1 is a Grape running the image, and there's a link to the HEMSI page. And that page has a really nice video that John did on the Grape 1. And it's out of date. And so is a lot of the text on that link. And that's the first link that people are going to run into.
Who was taking care of the website? Was it Christina?
Well, the Grape 1 page, the current one, I did that one from top to bottom. I reworked everything.
Oh, okay.
It's all the links to the Hardware X paper and Mendeley and all that sort of stuff. And it's impossible to go back and fix all that. We got to figure out what our most current repository is, which I think is Mendeley, and keep that one up to date. Maybe put that one first.
Because originally the distribution for the Grape 1 image was on a Google Drive, if I remember right. Was that right, Nathaniel? Is that how we did it?
Yeah, I think we had it on a Google Drive.
Yeah.
I may have put that link on the HAMSA website, but I can't remember.
Okay.
That's my recollection, John.
Okay.
So I need to spend some time in looking at the Grape 1 page is what you're telling me. That's understood. I can do that.
Thank you.
In your free time.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, John, I know you said in your copious free time, you'd be willing to do the image, but do you actually have time in your agenda, or I guess do you actually have time?
I'm going to have to make time. It's that simple, because I'll have to install all the libraries on the new Buster image, and then start trying to compile it and fixing all the broken dependencies for the libraries that are missing. It's essentially what it boils down to.
It's the bullseye image, right, John?
I'm sorry, yeah, the bullseye image, whatever the latest 1.6 or whatever, or 6.1, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, keep us updated on that then.
Okay. But in the meantime, I should probably label the existing one as old and do not use. in which case I'll have to update the documentation, but Gary's going to give me that to update, and we should be able to straighten this all out before the masses hit, because we want to do that before we confuse the living crap out of everybody.
Yep.
That would not be a good thing.
Nope.
Nathaniel will come here with pitchforks and torches and finish my office off.
I'll just lose a lot of sleep at night.
I have a standing offer, and that is if anybody builds a Grape, the Grape 1.1112, whatever, I offer to take a look at and try to repair those they can't get working. I've already done that with one.
Thank you, Joe.
And I sent Bill Blackwell /Stan/George, if I get it right.
Yeah.
It's actually Bob, but Bob and I have been building the Grapes. If that's
Okay. I sent you a bunch of the extra 612s. So,
yeah.
And there's more if you need them. Hopefully not. I think I sent
I
you.
think we have plenty.
Yeah, I think it's got 30 or 50 of them.
Yeah, we had a bunch anyway.
Oh, okay. Back to net.
Yes. I was going to say, does anyone have anything else that they'd like to discuss? Any pressing issues or questions, comments, concerns?
Quick message to David McGough. Celisa just resent that to your email. So if you could double check that.
Yeah, I did find it too. I'm just trying to figure out how to do a digital signature for it.
Okay.
But I do have it. Thanks.
Thank you. And then to John, Celisa's going on vacation.
Uh-oh.
I know. Both she and Majid are going on vacation. Celisa will be out this Saturday through August 13th, and Majid will be out from this weekend through like the Saturday the 19th. I did ask Celisa to work with the person who is standing in for her, Bridget Hunter, to be able to provide continuity of ordering services for you.
So Celisa is going to be out the week of the 7th.
Yes.
She'll be back on the week of the 14th.
Yes.
Okay, so that's basically I lose a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did ask her. So Bridget Hunter is our associate dean, or not associate, assistant dean. She's the assistant dean, and so she's going to be handling Celisa's responsibilities while Celisa's gone. So Celisa's working to see if Bridget can handle things for you while she's gone.
Okay.
And if you get absolutely desperate, I have a credit card too, and I can order things.
Okay. Hopefully it won't come to having to bother you, but it's nice to know
but
the options there.
We do have a little bit of depth on the bench.
A quick question for John. Tell me again what you sent me. You sent me 2 Raspberry Pis, and do they include power supplies and also the SD cards? Or
it has the SD cards. I do not have power supplies for them because my board has it built onto the board. So
okay,
the USB-C 3-amp power supply for running that you're going to have to get. I don't have any of those, so. But you getting the 4 gig 4Bs, as well as 2 of the high performance 32 gig micro SD cards.
Okay, yeah, so make a note, if you would please, to send me the details on how to compress that. The image that I've been burning down to that size.
Yeah.
That will help.
Yeah, I know Bill Blackwell was interested in that as well. So I will document that and get it out. But I have found that it only runs under Ubuntu for whatever version of Perl it does, but it checks the file system and then it compresses it. It does a very nice job because you can use Polina Etcher to reburn the image.
And this runs on what machine?
It runs on Ubuntu or i7, i5.
Okay, so it runs on an i5 class machine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Standard
you.
Ubuntu distro.
David Kasdan, I have a QSL card for you here in a stamped envelope, ready to go.
The post office still works. You can do that.
Yeah, I just have to walk up.
So the backstory here is that I was on FT8, a month ago, and cranked up my station, called CQ, immediately got called back by a high school classmate. John Taylor, who was the author of Echolink. Like, wow, I haven't talked to John in a long time. I don't think we'd made a QSO since high school. And then the next station that called me was Nathaniel. Yeah, like, wow, that's amazing. So, okay, that's fun.
Is the envelope addressed in Morse code?
No, I used printed handwriting.
Oh,
I can add that in though. I mean, there's no trouble.
David can't read it unless it's Morse code.
Yeah,
and sometimes not even if.
No, but it has to be addressed in FT8.
Oh, right.
I can copy slow scan television by year, but I'm still working on FT8.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're good.
Yeah. You just have to have enough imagination.
You have to have seen the picture beforehand. That's good. Yeah.
That's called matched filtering, right?
Okay, good. Yes, right.
By the way, Nathaniel, I don't know if I can't remember if I put you on the FedEx routing, but the RF card has been received by Scotty from me for rework.
Great. So now I just need to hear from Scotty to find out how that rework is going.
Is Scotty back in the picture here, or is he still on leave? Still incognito?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're trying to get him to do rework on these receiver boards.
Is he okay?
Oh yeah, as far as I understand, he's okay. But I also understand that my understanding is he's okay, but he's completely overwhelmed with trying to build this new house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the temperature in Phoenix is just unreasonable.
That's an understatement.
Understatement.
Wait, Joe, you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah, but I'm at 7,000 feet. Phoenix is at 1,000.
Oh,
right. But I just remember from looking at Gary's list of where he needed grapes. Gary, didn't you need one in Arizona?
Yeah, Joe's on the list, but it's far southwest Arizona that was also on the map.
Oh, okay.
Joe's in Flagstaff, north of Phoenix, so.
That would be Yuma area. Don't know anybody there, sorry.
Just as a rough...
I'll poke around.
Just as a rough thumbnail question for Bill Engelke. Is the image for the digital RF usable yet, or are you still working on tweaking it?
Well, it has one little thing that I want to fix, but I've been running it pretty much as it is for months.
Okay.
Just basically giving it a smoke test. There's one little funny thing it does. Sometimes it leaves an extra prop. The way it works is, in order to make everything work with the way we're doing observations, we're going to do one DRF 24-hour observation per day, and then upload that. So at the top of the hour, top of the day UTC, it has to shut down the existing GNU radio, close off the previous observation, and trigger the uploader to start running. And then it starts a new process running with GNU radio with a new observation date in it. And it has to work that way because of the way DRF works inside GNU radio. And sometimes it leaves the old process running. So you'll see 2 or 3 GNU radios, and it doesn't seem to hurt anything, at least with the level of loading we have in the system now. But I want to clean that up. So it definitely kills off the old process and doesn't ever actually make a mistake and leave one of them running, because you go back and you look at your system, there'd be 2 or 3 of them there. And then, what's that? So that's the only thing that's bugging me right now. The rest of it seems to be working quite cleanly.
Okay, so yeah, because you leave those running, that's a memory leak.
Well, it absorbs some processing power.
Yeah.
And so if if you had a half a dozen of them running, eventually you'd start running short on cycles.
Yep.
So
Okay, thank you.
that's the next thing. I'm going to see if I can fix that here within the next week or so, and then I'll start playing with burning some images and seeing how well they run on the test boxes you sent me. So,
Gary, would you like me to shake some bushes and see if I can find somebody over in Yuma, which is southwest corner of Arizona?
Yeah, because there's not, the population density is pretty low over there. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, we've only got a few people that check into the Races Net weekly. Okay, I'll look around, see if I can find somebody, and that's either let me think, Palo Verde, California. Trying to remember where that is. We've got a really enthusiastic guy out there. He might be willing. I'll check.
Okay, yeah, that'd be very helpful.
Either that or a very enthusiastic tumbleweed.
Yeah,
We've got plenty of those. Trouble is, we got that big fire in the forest out here, the Joshua Tree Forest.
Oh dear.
It's just a question for the group. I suppose you can all tell I'm really struggling understanding and getting a handle on this, on the whole bandwidth and all this kind of stuff. Have there been any presentations or papers anywhere that there may be a graphic representation of the WWV signal where the carrier lands, we're 1 kilohertz below that, what our sampling is of that, and so on and so forth? Because if there isn't, I propose that we probably need one at some point down the road. It just seems like it would be an interesting thing to include in some of our publications. But
I know I presented that at one of the ham size in my
talk. You know who might be able to give you one? If you talk to Steve Serwin, send Steve Serwin an email and see if he can do a Spectrum Lab capture of the entire WWV bandwidth. Steve makes excellent observations, and he has the Spectrum Lab set tuned very nicely.
Good, I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've sure been impressed with Steve's publications.
I'll look back in some of the Hamside conferences too, Jen, the workshops.
I'll take a quick look at my PowerPoints and see if I can find the page and send it to you. It's real simple. But yeah, I think Steve Serwin.
It may be simple, but I'm simpler. So
we all start.
The WWV, they have a nice website where they talk about the broadcast format.
Right.
Which I'm sure you've seen this before.
Yeah, I have.
And here, I'll put it in the chat again. But I know it doesn't have exactly what you want, I think. But what would be interesting, I think, is that I think their page could really use what you're suggesting. So maybe if Steve were able, or Steve or someone were able to make that, maybe they could send it over to WWV, and maybe Aiden or Mike Lombardi, I guess Mike's retired now, but maybe he's still involved. Maybe they could actually add it to that website so that it's right on the NIST website.
Yeah, that doesn't really show the actual spectrum.
The spectrum, but I think if they showed the spectrum, it would be really nice.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, do you have on the Hamside website my poster from AGU 2019, I think it is, about our signal extraction from WWV and WWVH?
Yes, we do.
I think it would answer the questions here.
Okay.
I'll look for that too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Would a screen grab of an FLDigi image showing all the WWV tones and everything, would that be helpful?
If it were annotated, probably yes.
I think that's what we're looking for.
Because you got the non-tone minute, and you got the 440, you got the 500, and you have the 600.
Yeah. What you want to do is you want to take the word description that's in that website I just posted, and yeah, you want to annotate a spectrum that you capture with explaining where those words are.
Actually, having a capture of the FLDigi spectrum would be helpful for a new person setting it up, because then they know what they're looking for.
And yeah, you want to take a look at the graphics in my poster as a guide. I put a lot of work into what you're describing.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I'm looking for it right now, David. So I'm going to try to get post the link to it in a second.
I was just going to email a question on this subject about if I make, I'm just now adding WWV IQ recording support to Whisper Demon. And I'm wondering how wide the IQ files should be. I can make them as wide as you want, but I was thinking plus or minus 5 kilohertz, but the wider I make them, and I don't know what you expect in the, do you have a specific bandwidth that you expect for these are, I guess, the Grape 2 formats, right?
Yeah, Grape 2 will only go up to 2.2 kilohertz off of WWVH.
Okay, so plus or minus 2.5 kilohertz would be the your desired IQ recording.
Correct. That sounds like
okay. Okay, good. But that's
say that one more time. I was looking for David's poster. What's the bandwidth here?
2.5 kilohertz IQ or a 5 kilohertz straight stream. Either way, that's Nyquist.
Right, because the yeah, will that also capture the voice?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real high. It's
David,
certainly discernible.
Okay. Yeah, David, I put the link to your poster, your AGU poster in the chat.
Oh, good, thanks. That may be useful to people.
Yeah, I don't think it has what we're looking for though, which I think is you have the time series on there, the time domain plot, but I don't see a spectrum plot. I think what we really want is like a waterfall spectrum. I think we want an annotated waterfall spectrum.
What did you have it, David? Was it your second tick stuff?
No, it was a complete taxonomy.
Oh.
Of everything that these stations transmit and how they might be used for our purposes. It's 4 years. I've kind of forgotten it. I'm looking at it now. And
is this the one you're thinking of?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay.
It was the virtual poster session with whole piles of clicks.
Oh. So maybe that was that like AGU 2020 then?
Oh gosh.
Because it was a virtual one with all sorts of clicks. I think they did that.
No, it was the one immediately before pandemic. It was 2019.
No, the one I just posted was the 2019 poster.
We had another session though. There was a virtual posters. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. Yeah. I must not. I'm not thinking of the same one you're thinking of. So.
Let's see if I can find that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion?
Hey, it's pretty bright. I see a couple of.
I'm not sure.
Oh, there it is. Wow, I'm impressed.
Hold it up, face. Yeah, there we go.
If we get some parts, we can start shipping. We got more boards.
Excellent. Wow, I'm impressed.
That looks beautiful.
That's gorgeous. You're in charge of production. Nice job.
It looks like there's a ground plane underneath it too.
Yep.
That looks
Mars.
That looks absolutely beautiful, Bob.
And there's a big ground connection.
Hold it up a little more, Bob. There you go.
I can't.
Wow.
The thing is, I can't see it. I can't see what.
That's good. That's good. Big brass wing nut.
So we could start shipping anytime we have parts.
I like the board mount of the Grape using just the SMA connectors. I'm impressed.
The note the SMA connectors are different sex on the grape.
Right.
Yeah,
they're both female.
Saves an adapter.
Oh, I see. You changed them out. Okay.
And the hole here is where the 9-volt power goes in.
Oh, okay.
And then
the
business end of the pie.
Right. Nice heat sink.
Well, it's our understanding this is what the pie is going to have.
Oh, I did a really.
Is that not correct?
That's my understanding of what you want me to order.
That's the Geekworm P122 enclosure. It's what I use.
These are so nice that once we get all of these deployed, I think we're going to want to figure out how to keep them in service even after we deploy the Grape 2s. You know, because they're extra data points and they're absolutely, like, the construction looks beautiful. I don't see a reason to take them out of commission. If they work, which I imagine they will, I mean, they're beautiful.
Oh, is it supposed to work?
No,
What's this work? What's this work thing?
I thought it was a coffee table.
Yeah, work is a 4-letter word to me, so.
Well, it's on a breadboard, and it actually could be a breadboard.
There you go.
Well, it's a piece of floor.
Yeah, I guess it really is breadboard construction, right?
It's kind of hard on the teeth, but it is kind of crunchy.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but I got in late. But how many are we expected to deliver of these?
Complete.
Only 125, Bob.
Yeah,
well,
by next Monday.
No problem. We're just gonna, this is renegotiation time.
So I know you need parts. How many more parts do we need to order, John and Gary?
Well, I have to order the heat sinks, the Leo Bodnars, the 12-volt supplies.
Well, we're going to take care of those.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
The power supplies.
It's actually a 9-volt supply. But...
Do you need the numbers, or are you ready to order?
Actually, I'm working with Gary on that, and I'm actually hoping to get the order in this week before Celisa disappears.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can get the order in before she goes on vacation, that's probably ideal.
Okay, so I'll try and get it to her tomorrow, but is she gonna skedaddle out there at like 2 o'clock?
I don't know. You can email her and find out. I'm sure she'll let you know what her plans are.
Yeah, they'll talk to me afternoon.
We've been making good progress assembling grapes.
Yeah, my estimate, Bob, would be 15 complete units like that right now. But I'm going to let John know for sure later today.
Well,
Gary.
Okay, please let us know when you got a hard number. But
yeah, Gary, can you also make sure that our people who are assembling these grapes get appropriate recognition on our website for all their hard work?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I ask people to sign up on the server. I want to make sure that they're engaged and they're doing what they said they're going to do, which is hard to follow up on, but I got to check that list. A lot of people did sign up last week, and after Saturday's email, and I'll check again later today.
But I think we should also especially highlight the New England Grape Group people and make sure they get a special recognition.
Hey,
yeah,
we're going to get swelled heads up here.
That's okay.
What's wrong with that? Let me be a bummer here. The New England Grape Group is assembling these things. Actually, it's Bob and Stan that are doing it, and Bill and I are cheerleading.
supporting.
You're going to get your chance.
Okay. I can.
You're going to be licking the stamps on the packages, George.
I can man the drill press and all that. But oh darn, I forgot my question. Oh yes. Who's going to take the support phone calls? Not us.
Well, that's why I've been trying to instruct people to sign up for the Hamsci Grape group, because that's really where I think we need the questions to funnel in, because if one person has a question, there's probably 5 more that have that same question. So that's what I'm trying to encourage.
That was the
original
in the past.
In the past, Jim Farmer, I think, was one of the people who had volunteered to help field questions from people. So maybe you can ask him if he'd be willing to continue doing that, and if he needs more help or additional people. And I know Joe here, he very kindly offered to do rework for people. So I don't know how much Joe would like to be involved in that sort of process as well.
Cool.
I just, in that respect, I want to point out that several of us were helping that person, but it probably took a month to get everything straightened out. And if you multiply one person times some number here, we don't want it to take a month. But
yeah.
I have a question for John. I downloaded the image for an old grape, for an old pie, and flashed it yesterday. And it flashed an image that was much smaller than the SD card, such that when I tried to run an update, it crashed because it said I ran out of space.
Okay, you skipped the step where you're supposed to expand the file system.
Okay, all right.
Because what happens is it creates the image on there as the size of the image that you've written, but there is no extra disk space. So you're going to be lucky to even.
All right, there's some instructions. I got to go back and read the directions.
In my instructions on expanding the file system.
Okay.
That gives you the full size of the card.
Is that in the 77-step document?
I thought.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Wow, somebody's reading my documentation.
Every word.
Yep.
Yep.
That took a long time to create.
Well, yeah, that's a great document. More engineers should do that kind of stuff.
Well, I just wrote it as if I was doing it for the first time and I had no idea what I was looking at. And that's the mindset I took, and that's the way I wrote it.
You did very well.
It worked well.
I want to give a shout out to Joe Metzger, because I think he is in Jacksonville, Florida. Is that correct, Joe?
That's correct.
There you are. You're the one that's down by my brother. So thank you for setting up a node there.
It's my pleasure. Glad to be a help. Join it.
Just watch for those 2 p.m. thunderstorms. They're nasty.
Yes, sir.
And they come up every day. I just don't get that. But I guess that's what you get on the coast there. But
that's Florida weather for you.
Yeah, it's nasty. So, thank you, Joe.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or discussions? In that case, I think we're done.
Hey, Garrett, we're meeting on another Zoom link in a few minutes. Garrett's still here?
He was.
Oh, I think I was saying. All right, thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, everyone.
73 all.
7 3s.
73.
73.